unbox and assemble your studio reformer with Revo Footbar, you will need a pair of scissors, a knife, a hex key comes with, and we recommend a towel. Hi, I'm Christine here in the BB Garage, and today we're going to unbox and assemble your studio reformer with Revo Footbar. So, take a look at your box. There are staples that secure it. So first thing, you want to make sure that when you start to release the staples and the tape, you just keep in mind where those are as you start to unbox the pieces of the reformer. So what I will do, I will simultaneously take my knife very carefully to release the tape in certain sections. Yep, and then once I get the tape, I will go around and start to release the staples as well. Be really careful with these box cutters or these knives. I only open them a little bit to what you need to cut through that tape. Okay, now I think we have all the tape handled. As I start to pull the edges, it is getting a little loud when those staples get released, so you go around the whole perimeter. There we go, we got one side. There we go. So now I think I've got to release the other side. Oh, I see what. We've got a little more tape on one end. There we go. I'm actually going to do the same on this end, and then it'll lift off. So the whole top comes off. There we go. Even though those staples are pretty much consistently on the outer layer, just be mindful looking around the rest of the box. From a bird's eye view, we've got a lot of packing cardboard in here that's taped in, so I will release those carefully. We can move these off to the side, and we'll just start to take bits and pieces out and take our inventory. Okay, now I'm actually going to keep this piece. This was covering the upholstered carriage. I'm going to keep this nearby in case I need to set it down with the carriage. I want to make sure I have a safe space to set that down. But these boxes, which have probably springs and ropes and things, I'm going to set up here. A little bit on the heavy side, but not bad. Okay. Oh, standard sitting box. There's our sitting box. So, okay. I've gotten most of the pieces out. Now we have the carriage. It is sitting on the reformer frame. Reformer frame is inverted. So what you want to do, like I said with that cardboard, I'm actually going to set it against the wall so I can put the carriage there for the time being. And be careful as you lift this out. It is substantially heavy. So I'm going to lift it, bring it towards me, and then here I can set it down against that cardboard. just so it's an added layer of protection. Okay. All right, now, this is the part where you're gonna wanna bring in a friend because this bad boy is heavy. So I'm gonna bring a friend in and we're gonna take it out of the box and flip it over. Awesome. Thank you. So now I'm taking one more look in this box just to make sure I am not forgetting any other pieces. All I see is the cardboard filler. So I'm going to get rid of this big box to give myself some more room. Now you'll notice the foot bar is secured with some wrap and tape. So again, very carefully, if you don't want to use a knife, you can also use scissors to cut through that, just to be extra careful. Yeah, and then you'll see the wrap on the standing platform. You can also take that off. Should just slide off one side. Okay, now, set my scissors back down. Let's take the foot bar and I'm going to set it to the end of the reformer. Now, when we're going to put the carriage in, there's a couple of different ways that we can attach the springs to the carriage. I'm going to get into my boxes, see all my pieces, and then I'll show you the different options for applying the springs. So let's move our sitting box to the side. We won't need that for a bit. And then again, very carefully with that knife, opening up your box of treasures. Okay. So in here, you will find your springs for the reformer carriage, your ropes, your shoulder blocks. All right, and your very important information. So all of your instructions are in here too. If you want to follow along with those and with me, you're welcome to. Now, at the moment, I'm going to start just with the reformer springs. So here are your reformer carriage springs. You could do one of two things to put them onto the carriage. You could have the carriage just like it is now, propped against something. You could put the springs on, or you could put the carriage on the reformer frame and climb underneath to apply them there. Totally dependent on what you're comfortable with, because this one requires you to transfer the carriage to the reformer with the springs on. So I'll show you this version. Open up your springs. With this reformer, you have 3 red springs, 1 green spring, and 1 blue spring. So the important thing to know about placing your reformer springs on your carriage is that the hook, because this is going to be face down, we want the hook facing down towards the floor. So as I put these on, I'm going to make sure the hook is facing out towards me, okay? And I'm going to alternate the red. So I've got 1 red on the outside hook, 1 red on the middle hook, and then 1 on the other outside hook with the blue and the green in between. Okay. Now, before I transfer it over to the reformer, I want to do one thing with the frame. I'm going to take a towel and just wipe down the rails here, making sure that no cardboard particles are there from transfer. And I can also just quickly run this over the wheels. Good. Okay. Now, you want to make sure that when you put the carriage on the reformer, the headrest end is towards the riser end of the reformer and the springs are towards the footbar end, okay? So as I lift this up, trying not to put pressure on the springs because they may come out of those hooks in this transfer. Bring this in. Simply going to set this into the frame as is and set it down. So now that that's in place, I have the springs there. I'm going to take the Revo spring bar and connect our springs to it. Okay, and then I'm going to move the spring bar and the carriage down to the bottom. Ta-da! Okay, carriage is in place, secured with the springs. So now, let's take a look at what else we have in here. We have our shoulder rests. We have our ropes and our pulleys, which we need our risers first. So I will put our shoulder rests in, since I have them here. And I'm gonna use a little bit of scissor power, cut through this tape. Nice, okay. So you have 2 shoulder rests and you have these to go over the posts. So notice that these are off-centered, okay? These bolts on the shoulder rest are off-centered, meaning they could be set in a wide or a narrow setting. The default is going to be the more narrow setting. So I'm going to set this up here. And that's not to say that's going to be your default setting for your reformer. I'm just choosing that at the moment. And then we take these posts and you just screw it right on. Tighten it up a bit. Other side, I'm going to slide these in. You slide it towards the riser end and then tighten the posts. There you have it. All right, so shoulder blocks are in. I'm going to take this little cover off the headrest, but this does have a 10% off coupon, so keep that in mind. Now, I have a feeling that it's not just our sitting box in this box. I have a feeling our risers are in there too. So let's open this up carefully because there is an upholstered item in here, so you don't want to push too far down through the tape. There we go. Good, and this one also has some protective cardboard. Taking these out. And that piece there. And here's our risers. As expected, you have another sheet of information here for the sitting box. Set that with your very important information. Now, I'm going to leave my sitting box here. Let's just focus on the risers. So you'll have your baggie with your pulleys. Now the pulleys and the post screws, we want to take those together up to the riser end. And I want to take one more look, make sure I'm not missing any hardware in here. One thing I will need is a hex key. We have that here. And it comes in the same packaging as your range limiter, which I'm going to set into the rail of the reformer. There's holes on one side, on one set of rails, and you can set that range limiter in a multitude of spots to stay. For now, we don't need it for anything, so I'm just setting it into one of those holes. All right, now, as we take a look at these risers, let's look at our hardware. 4 screws, it's pretty simple. I'm going to take our risers out. Now, taking a look at these, we want to make sure that the slot is on the upper side and we have the flat side going against the reformer, okay? Rather than the rounded edges. And I'm going to take my bottom screw here. I just get it started with my hands. And the top one here, the same. And I'll come back with the hex key to tighten them up. Okay. Good. Other side, same. Okay, now that we have those tightened, I'm putting my hex key back in a bag so I don't lose track. And then I'm taking my pulleys to the other side of the risers. So what we want to do with these, we want to have the knob end on the back side and the pulley on the front side of the reformer riser. So I'm going to loosen this here. There are quite a few washers involved, so just be careful as you do that, you keep things kind of organized. And I'm slowly unscrewing the knob. Okay, now you have 2 washers. They're going to sandwich the riser. So as you put one through, I'm looking at the different markers of height for the riser setting, for the pulley setting. I'm going to the top line, but not the top of the riser. It can depend on what you prefer with your reformer and the usage that you really find common. So once I have those 2 washers sandwiching the riser, I'm gonna start to tighten the knob. And this pulley, the pulley can pivot and rotate. So the eye bolt doesn't have to be in any certain orientation. I'm gonna have it vertical, just for my consistency's sake with both sides. And I'm tightening it so that this is all really snug. The eye bolt doesn't move as the pulley might rotate. So snug enough. And if you want to brace that eye bolt, you can take a screwdriver and hold it in place as you do the knob. I wouldn't do it so tight that people couldn't actually loosen it and adjust the height. You want to have that ability given the exercises you're looking to do, because there is variance there. Let's match it on the other side. Yep. Okay, we have our washers. And again, I'm going to line it up with that top line. Try to make sure the washer on the pulley side lines up with that spring and all of those pieces there. Yep, get them centered on each other. Good. Again, nice and snug, but not too tight that it can't be loosened for easy adjustment. Okay, next step, the ropes. So going back to your box of goodies, your ropes are in here. Also comes with neoprene handles. I'll talk about those in a moment. Let's get your ropes organized. So I take that rope through. So I go through the pulley first, then I go through the metal piece with the cleats. And you make sure that it goes through the cleats. That's a key point so that it actually grabs the rope. I'm just gonna pull it through a little bit and do the other side because we are going to match them up with the straps. Pushing it through the cleat and through the two metal pieces so that stabilizes the rope. And then I have cotton loops. Cotton loops go onto the hooks there, and I'm putting this around the shoulder rest. So as I set the length of the ropes, they're going to match on either side. All right, now I'm going to pull through until they're fairly taut. Good. Just about equal. You can get a little bit more specific with that. And then there is a hole, a piloted hole right next to the shoulder rest where you can thread the rope down through. And if for some reason the rope drags on the floor and that noise doesn't agree with you, you can just take the end of the rope and tie it in a small little knot so it comes off of the floor. Now, once those are set, I'm going to take the cotton loops off of the shoulder rests and set them on those shoulder rest pegs that are nice and snug. Put our headrest down. The neoprene handles, these can go along with the straps if you wish to have those as a combination available, or you can set them down to the side if you have some kind of storage in the well of the reformer or off to the side of it so that they're available. Great for different grip options for your clients or for yourself, okay? Just for visibility, I'll put them here with the cotton loops. So to recap, we have the reformer with the springs set up, shoulder rests, risers, pulleys, ropes, foot loops, neoprene handles. Now let's take a look down at the footbar end. We have one more thing to install. And I'm going to keep my hardware separate from all of the packaging. All right, we have our foot strap. Now there are two, one on each end, two locking mechanisms there. You want to unscrew, create a gap. Good, so those open up there. Looking down at your spring bar, so down below your foot bar, your spring bar is there, and then there's a bracket. So this metal bracket against the bottom end of the frame is for a jump board or a standing platform, extended platform. Now, outside of that bracket, there's two eye bolts. These eye bolts are where you attach your foot strap. So, and you'll take the tag off, but you want to attach the foot strap and then you close that locking mechanism. Good, both sides, same thing. And this foot strap sits at the end of your reformer. It can sit down below the spring bar, below that bracket. Totally out of the way. When you need it, you pull it up and it's secure in place. Okay, let's set our foot bar. We have our two locking pieces on the foot bar. I'm going to set it into the mid position and then slide those locks in place. And last but not least, our sitting box. Take this out. Beautiful sitting box. Rest that on the carriage. And I think we've just assembled your studio reformer with the Revo Footbar. So I hope you enjoyed this video, hope it was helpful, and enjoy your reformer.